Bezzy mates, you and I. Family forever, and they'll never separate us. We, feral kids, like a gang of stray dogs, unwashed, marked with scuffs and bites, roamed and roved the estate, sniffing out adventure. The five of us riding along on bikes, looming over the industrial horizon like the cast of the OK Corral. The two of us, the tightest of the bunch, riding side by side, armed with penknives and stolen sweets. Not an easy task to find adventure on that estate. Only a few years before it had been patches of newly seeded green grass spouting from black mud, the remnants of farmland sold off to developers. Now it was a postage-stamp wilderness set in the front of orange brick, brand-new sets of 4 made-to-measure Lego houses for the city overflow. Rows upon rows of orange boxes divided by paper-thin walls or broken up by ginnels labelled with signs stating "No thoroughfare." We had come from the big city, the bustling, buzzing metropolis, to this, a nowhere land, peppered with sheep and plastic multi-purpose containers for working in, living in, learning in, dying in. To our eternal shame, we had become what the city kids termed woolly-backs. My Bezzy mate and I faced off this brave new world together. We threw up 2 fingers to it and sang loudly, each aware with a certainty never felt since that one would take or throw a punch for the other. Bezzy mates all right, and no mistake. We were boss, we were tops, we were gear. Family forever. Our cul-de-sac was a mock paradise set in the depths of the Manor Council estate, where lives and streets were in parallel wars of love, boredom, apathy and jealousy. A manufactured reality show, reveal-all drama would happen every other week. Ongoing feuds over parking, noise or inbreds daring to breed outside the family would rumble on. Most of the residents were Irish Scousers or Mancunians, uprooted, displaced, between worlds. A dangerous and thrilling mix of Catholic and Protestant, Liverpool and Everton, United and City. Cup final day smelt of ancient rivalry played out on new ground. These people were storytellers who ran out of relevant stories, so took instead to creating and perpetuating spirals of crises to ensure they felt involved, to ensure they felt. We kids set up tropical jungles in the bushes, had 5-a-side matches with the next street, made peg guns and dens. We accidentally set fire to the youthy, and I got banned for life for breaking a lad's nose. I was petrified and didn't want to go home. You, my Bezzy mate, punched me in the stomach to distract me from my fear. Then you threatened everyone and told them you'd kill them if they told on me. You saved me then. I still owe you for that. You and me against the world. Bezzy mates. Family forever. On the wreck at the edge of the estate, we had fun round the back of the social club trying to walk on the empty metal booze barrels until Mr. Mason, the caretaker man, came round with his nasty Alsatian. We'd flee across the wreck, through the fence back onto the estate. On Reaper Close, the Osborne family ruled the roost. Terry, Cheryl, Julian and Jason. Comings and goings, deliveries, exchanges, rumours of wife swapping, knock-off gear, fights, threats, drugs, the busies. Julian, the eldest son, was stabbed doing a job in Liverpool and died aged 16. His brother Jason became the top man and ruled the street. He was found dead a few years later, also aged 16. We renamed the street Grim Reaper Close after that. Back on our street, I listened through paper-thin walls to my Glaswegian neighbours stomping up and down stairs, their unintelligible shouting and muffled crying. I was once asked by the fearsome matriarch Marion if her daughter had lied about eating raw jelly from the cupboard when I'd been round earlier playing in the plastic paddling pool in the garden. "I'm asking you because you never lie," she said as her daughter sobbed beside her, a red hand mark still smarting across her swimsuited bare back. Daz's mum signalled the beginning of summer by sitting on the front step with a Bacardi and Coke at 9 a.m. You and I decided Daz was a vampire, as he didn't come out unless it was dark, and he used to bite people when he was younger. I asked him why his bedroom door had a hole in it, and he replied, "Dunno, just kicked it in when I was pissed off." He had an envious freedom. His bedroom walls were full of his own felt pen graffiti, and he tinkered with the engine of his dad's car that never left the parking space. We would run for the Dandelion and Burdock van, that also sold blue movies to the adults, and follow the Rag and Bone Man on our bikes as he sang, "Any old iron." Our gang met every moment we could and exchanged stories. We created and exaggerated our own myths and legends. Mr. Hitler, the man who shouted at us for playing British Bulldog on the patch of grass on the roundabout. Audrey, the old witch woman who spied on the street from her tiny frosted bathroom window, which must have meant she stood on the bog seat looking out. Psycho Griff, an older lad at my school, who lived a few streets away and had been arrested for throwing his mate off the motorway bridge as a joke. Shane Powell, who stole a Mr. Kipling's cake delivery van and parked it near the subway and offloaded boxes of cakes, some of which he stowed in the bushes. You and I had got word and crept out at 6 a.m. in gloves and balaclavas to retrieve them. We'd found one half-empty packet of apple pies and gobbled them down as if we'd successfully outwitted a master criminal and gained gold pieces. Bezzy mates, sitting with our legs swinging over the subway bridge, munching on stale apple pies at 7 a.m, feeling as if no one in the whole wide world could be as special as us. Nothing could beat this moment of triumph. Bezzy mates, family forever. Sundays, the dads of the street were at the pub. Mums ironed clothes angrily to the strains of Stand By Your Man, and bored children drew pictures on the floor with stones. Within 5 years, most of the men on the street were out of work. Front lawns became neglected, paint peeled, lean youths grew plumper, and people aged before our eyes. Time ticked by slowly, and I dreamt of a life elsewhere. The town library held a fascination for me, and I crept away to it whenever I could. It was a secret I kept from everyone, even from you, my Bezzy mate. It was my own private, unbounded adventure. The loud summer music drove me mad, thumping across the street and in my chest. It was hard to think, to make my own music. Felt like I was being beaten into submission, acceptance. Yet summer seemed to hope for adventure, for new worlds, travel. About me, dogs, uncared for, roamed, loot in the bins during a strike. Arguments about money seeped from open windows. An abandoned roller skate with 3 wheels lay on its side in the middle of the road. Against this backdrop, we set out, freedom stretching before us, to find treasure that would allow us to escape forever. Conversation consisted of which member of the A-team we were, who was the better footballer, Bestie or Gaza, and whether or not ghosts existed. We pushed the boundaries, climbed mountains and made discoveries. We dared each other to leap from the substation to the wire fence. We made a rope swing and fell into the brook. We built a raft that sank in the canal, and you lost your shoe when you stepped in newly laid concrete and stayed still for too long. We stole apples and were shot at by a farmer with a pellet gun. We were injured and helped each other survive. We were warriors, brothers and sisters in arms, Bezzy mates, family forever. Long summer days that ended with a slow, silent bike ride home. Neither of us wanting to go back, comforting each other that we would see each other the next day, that we would use the memories we'd made today to get us through the night. Bezzy mates, family forever. They'll never separate us. Later, as we went to our different Catholic and Anglican secondary schools, we stopped riding bikes and hung out on street corners instead. We were too cool for bikes. We moved more slowly now. I watched you grow tall, gangly legs and the first signs of hair inking your chin. Your Adam's apple more pronounced. Your voice deeper, your eyes a shade darker. We talked about school teachers and our favourite subjects. I had many, you had one. Craft design technology. You hated everything else. Long periods of silence between bursts of conversation. I often found myself looking at the night sky for possibilities of life elsewhere. You looked towards your trainers. As we got older at weekends, we would take long walks along the canal and end up at the shops next to the Sankey Arms. The wall was sprayed with the words F off Irish in response to the recent IRA bomb that had killed a kid at my school. The national press were everywhere. Those of us with Irish names stalked around quietly with a confused sense of anger, responsibility and guilt. But we had each other, Bezzy mates, family forever. I went to sixth form. You left school and joined the dole queue, hoping for a YTS place. We had little left in common but our street. Then I received the news. I had to move. 4 streets away, but off the estate. It may as well have been across an ocean to a different country. I was more devastated than you. You shrugged and said, "You were never meant to stay here, mate." I felt the distance. You spat on the floor and drew on your fag. I know it felt like a betrayal. I tried again. "Mate, we can visit and go to the Sankey Arms." You smirked and went home. I watched you walk away and felt a wave of despair. I knew nothing would ever be the same again. A year later, I was looking at university places. You were playing for the Westbrook Rangers and had an agency job in a warehouse. I shopped for clothes in charity shops and you bought the latest JD Sports trainers. We met awkwardly in town and I gave you my news. I was going away to study. "The only one on the street?" you said generously. "I knew you'd do it." For a moment, you sounded proud of me. It was the highest compliment I've ever been paid. You had to go back to work. I walked towards the bus station. I saw my bus come and watched it leave. I didn't want to be carried anywhere. I walked home with images of us as kids on bikes flashing through my mind. Adventure, hope, both of us equals, in it together, busy mates, family forever. A year later, and I'd made another temporary home, between worlds. I got the call at uni via a payphone. A message at the porter's lodge. A slip of paper with a name on it. A name I barely remembered. One of the old gang had called. I didn't even know they kept my number. I was taken straight back to the street. I felt like Doctor Who. I'd landed at the speed of light in an alien territory, inappropriately dressed and ill-equipped. I made my excuses to my waiting university friends and went to the payphone. The voice at the other end of the line was rough. It didn't recognise my newly polished vowels. I had to repeat my name. There was a brief silence, then she said, "He was hit by a car at 2 a.m. walking home from the Sankey Arms. Effing drunk driver. Daz went round there with a cricket bat. He's in court on Monday." I mumbled something about being sorry and hung up. I went to rehearsal and gave a shaky performance as George in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. After rehearsal, we went to the pub. I drank more than Burton, and stayed on when my friends left. I walked to the bus station, watched my bus come and go, and decided I wanted to walk along the dual carriageway, trying my luck against the cars and take in the night sky. I walked and walked and walked. I've never made a busy mate since.